Minnesota and the Cardinals. The Minnesota Vikings, even though they're 0-2, all around they've looked good. They really have. Now, obviously, their offense is really, and anybody that takes shots at Kirk Cousins, 22 for 32, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception. Those are numbers that you can win with. You can win with those numbers. So it's not because of Kirk Cousins they're not winning. The problem that they're not winning is their schedule. Look who they played in week 1, and look what they played in week number 2. Arizona, we know they're going to be a dominant team. They're a fun team to watch. They're very well built defensively. They have Chandler Jones, the best pass rusher in the league. They have J.J. Watt on the other side. I mean, this is a very good, talented team.
But they're doing with both ends,
yes.
right? Like, they're playing defense and they're scoring a shit ton of points.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's been sensational. They're running the ball very well. They have Kyler Murray's running the ball very, very well. And
you got a future Hall of Famer on defense.
And Rondell Moore is slowly but surely moving.
Well, what did I tell you about Rondell Moore, right?
Yes, you were right about that.
What I was referring to earlier, right? I told you, dude's a video game, right? And everyone's like, oh, I don't know about dude's a video game, bro.
Mm-hmm. Quite a good route runner too. And the other thing, like you were saying earlier about guys spreading the ball around, after DeAndre Hopkins had that first touchdown, and he really didn't get targeted a lot. It was Rondell Moore. It was Max Williams. That shows a lot with Kyler Murray's development too, where it seemed like. And there were points last year. He was great, but there were points last year he was force-feeding Hopkins. And same thing with Cousins, too. Spread the ball around nicely. The leading receiver was K.J. Osborne in that game.
That game was fun to watch.
Very fun to watch.
That was the best game of the week.
You're going to see ridiculous things out of that team, though, right? Because you go back to week 1, it was the Christian Kirk show, right? Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk did nothing in week 2, right? It's an embarrassment of riches right now. Christian Kirk can run. D-Hop is who he is. Like, everybody thinks he's a top 5 receiver in the league, right? Like, dude, and then you got Rondell Moore.
AJ Green is inefficient. 3 for 40, 3 receptions, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. If you can get a touchdown a game and be that efficient, you have a great number 2, great number 3 type of player like AJ Green. I think he has 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown in each game. I mean, that's pretty damn good for AJ Green. And remember, AJ Green he's a Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And to have a player,
no, it's not.
Absolutely.
Terrell Owens didn't get in first shot. He's not getting.
Terrell Owens was hated by the league. That's why he.
No, not Terrell Owens again.
Is AJ Green a first ballot Hall of Famer? Yes or no, Jeff?
Oh, it's tough. I've seen some dudes that I thought were first ballot dudes not get in it until like their second, third, fourth try. So. Don't ask me. I'm going to be a horrible judge.
All right. Listen to these numbers. 80 in 129 games, 654 receptions. By the end of this year, he's going to have over 10,000 yards, averages 14 yards per catch, 66 touchdowns. Those are Hall of Fame numbers. None
of that really means anything. and until I hear what some of the other guys have done. Like, how does that stack up with Hines Ward, who isn't in, who everyone thinks should be?
Hines Ward? All right, I'll bring Hines Ward in.
Hines Ward probably is better.
Carl says AJ Green not first ballot, but could get in.
I think
who has more Rondell Moore or Allen Robinson? It is Rondell Moore by a good amount right now. Allen Robinson only 59.
Hines Ward has played in almost 80 more games.
Well, right.
80 more games. I think it's 80 more games or 85 more games. He has 1,000 receptions, 12,083 yards, only 12 yards per catch and 85 touchdowns. I think if you look at the numbers,
AJ Green didn't win a single one.
AJ Green. He has played in 80 more games.
Right.
How many times you have to? How many?
He's also the best blocking wide receiver we've ever seen.
Oh my God! If you play in 80 more games and you're only beating him by
injuries are probably why he's not going to get in on the first shot,
and you're only beating him by 2,000 yards, and you've played in 80 more games. That's a significant amount. Honestly, when you look at the numbers and yards per catch, I'm going with AJ Green.
Carl says any playoff wins for Green. No, Carl, the Bengals didn't win any playoff games. You can't blame A.J. Green for the fact that Vontaze Burfict and Adam Jones decided to be dumbasses at the refs.
Yeah, I mean,
Or that Andy Dalton was there.
Again.
Or that Marvin Lewis was there.
Again, the fact is that I think A.J. Green is a first ballot Hall of Famer. You could disagree. That's fine. I could care less. My
Carter
point
didn't get in
is,
on the first shot.
when you look at the numbers, and you try to compare and contrast the numbers to Hines Ward, I think AJ Green has better numbers. So, but again, if you're liked by the league, you're going to get in before another player. We've seen guys like Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis should not be in the Hall of Fame, but he was loved by the league. They loved him, so he got in. I think he was a first ballot Hall of Fame, right?
But I also think
sure.
it's harder. I also think it's harder, though, for guys that toil away on bad teams, which the Bengals were basically his whole career, right? So it's like, very few guys like Calvin Johnson stand out on bad teams that get in. Like, normally when you're on a bad team, people overlook you.
Well, AJ Green is not Calvin Johnson, but he still was a great receiver for this era, and even though he was still on a good team, he was just a team that didn't win playoff games.
Let's do it this way. Is Larry Fitzgerald the first ballot Hall of Famer?
Easily.
Absolutely.
All right, so is A.J. Green and Larry Fitzgerald in the same class?
That's different.
How?
Larry Fitzgerald's played in a ton more games than A.J.
Right,
Green.
and we're all telling you the same thing. Injuries are why he's not going to get in. Chris Carr didn't get in the first shot. T.O. didn't get on the first shot. A.J. Green, if he gets in at all.
He'll get in, just not.
Larry
I hope he
and
gets
by the
in.
way, A.J. Green is not Larry Fitzgerald, okay? Larry Fitzgerald is one of the top 5 wide receivers of all time, okay?
Understood, but that's what I'm trying to say.
But this is also why the Hall of Fame is halfway a borderline ridiculous conversation, because who's had a better career, A.J. Green or Julian Edelman?
A.J. Green.
And no one thinks Edelman's going to get it, but he has a far better career.
Well, he's a better playoff player. Julian Edelman is.
But this is what I'm saying. This is why it's so arbitrary and ridiculous with who gets in and who doesn't. Hines Ward should be in. Is he? No. It's ridiculous.
But Hines Ward's loved by the league.
No, he's not. He was.
Who doesn't love Hines Ward?
And by the way, Julian Edelman doesn't have anywhere close to A.J. Green's numbers.
Carl says Anquan Boldin or A.J. Green. I would take Bolden in that one.
I would go with A.J. Green.
I'm taking Bolden just on toughness.
Maybe, but
Right.
I would go with A.J. Green. I think A.J. Green doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And that's my opinion. That doesn't mean that I'm 100% right. I think A.J. Green is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I think when people talk about Anquan Boldin, they really overlook that he was the number 1 dominant receiver on a team with Larry Fitzgerald when he took them all the way to the Super Bowl, and they got robbed by the referees.
Yeah.
Robbed.
Mm-hmm. That playoff run, Fitzgerald's run was great too, but the Bolden's playoff run was great that year, and with the Ravens when they won in 2012.
And here's a number with Anquan Boldin. He's played over 203 games. That means he's played over 60 more games than A.J. Green. He's got 13,000 catch yards, 12.8 yards per carry, and 82 yards. If you compare and contrast the numbers and the amount of games that he's played, A.J. Green has better numbers. Again.
But you're also talking about A.J. Green was at number 1 on his team. He was the only guy to cover, which may make it harder. But Anquan Boldin wasn't getting nearly the throws. He played on teams with Larry Fitzgerald. He played on teams with Steve Smith. Teams with guys that were getting the ball a whole lot more than he was.
Again, I'm not taking shots. And Anquan Boldin is going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer. Yeah. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. But A.J. Green, to me, what I've seen, and if you compare and contrast the numbers and the amount of games that these guys play, and that's what you look at, because if you see A.J. Green play in 60 or 50 more games or 80 more games like Hines Ward, he's going to have a lot better numbers than those guys. So that's just my thought when the process of the games that he didn't play because of injury. But A.J. Green is a Hall of Famer. I think he's a first ballot. He's probably not going to be first ballot. That's fine. He's still a Hall of Famer in my eyes. And so is Anquan Boldin. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. Larry Fitzgerald.
Jamie Collins is going to get traded this week.
New England.
He's holding out.
New England.
They held up. No, he's not going back to New England. He's just left there twice now. And there's no room for him.
Well, the front seven is terrible.
Oh, you're right. They probably do need him. They don't have any good linebackers on that team.
Come on,
you're
Jeff,
correct.
pay attention.
Carl says Tyler
falling
just
behind
give up
on this one.
Carl says Tyler just give up on the injury point. A good one, by the way. Call A.J. Green Gale Sayers, according to Errol.
What happened?
Carl says Tyler just give up on the injury point. A good one, by the way. Call A.J. Green Gale Sayers, according to Errol.
I didn't say that, but again, Carl taking words out of my mouth, which is completely untrue. So, but that's okay, Carl. I could care less what you think when you attack something that I did not say. Tampa and Atlanta, we all know what happened in that game. Atlanta is not a good team. Yeah. Seattle, That Seattle-Tennessee game, I believe that was the second best game. Went to overtime. I was very impressed with Tennessee and how they pushed forward. They didn't give up in that game. Derrick Henry was a beast in the second half. I was very impressed with what Tennessee did.
He's the only reason that team wins any games. Ryan Tannehill is a bag of flaming doggy doo-doo.
You don't think he had a good game?
Dude, Ryan Tannehill stinks.
No, I did.
Ryan Tannehill's the reason they almost lost that game.
He looked pretty damn good. He didn't throw any interceptions. 27
for the
for
amount
40,
of effort Derrick Henry
147
puts
yards.
in, for the amount of effort Derrick Henry puts in and how dominant he is and how much, every team is putting 8 guys in the box and Ryan Tannehill still can't complete a pass, should be embarrassed.
Again, I didn't think Ryan Tannehill had a bad game. I thought he played pretty well. And if you look at the numbers and you look what obviously Russell Wilson did, he played just as well as Russell Wilson did. 22 for 31, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tannehill, 27 for 40, 347 yards.
I mean, the difference is Russell Wilson doesn't have any help at running back. Their running backs
Carson's not,
and they're all
Carson's
hurt.
not that bad.
He's always hurt, and he's not that good. And by the way, go look at his numbers. They weren't very good this week.
13 carries, 31 yards for Carson.
Oh, 31 yards.
What did he do?
Carson, he's not that bad.
What did he do in week 1?
Awful.
Not a whole hell of a lot.
I thought he did pretty well in week 1.
Awful.
What
Go
was
look
his
at week
numbers?
1.
Go, Speedy, go look.
Oh, by the
can't
way,
do it.
for all the people talking about how Julio Jones is going to fall off,
Who
or
said
whatever.
that?
What?
Who
A
said
lot
that?
of people told me that. But anyway, Julio Jones played pretty freaking well, and he got robbed of a touchdown.
16 carries, 91 yards, and
That's
3
pretty
catches
damn good.
for 26 yards. That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good. I'm sorry. Carlson, I remember him playing very well week 1. And he had one bad game, and he played a very good defense.
Well, he's
We've
been
only
like that his whole
played
career.
So 50% of the games have been bad.
Well, he's been like that his whole career.
Carlson
He's
is not a
usually on
bad
and
running
off.
back, Jeff. I don't know what you're talking
Right,
about.
and he gave Russell Wilson 0 help against the Titans.
That's
0
fine.
help.
That was one
he got
game.
0 help. Meanwhile, Ryan Tannehill has the most dominant running back in football, and they're loading 8 guys into the box, and Ryan Tannehill is thinking
Again, I've been very impressed with Seattle because I think there's a lot of deficiencies in their defense. They've played pretty well. They lost a lot. They lost a lot of defensive players in the offseason. The last couple of years, their drafts have been horrendous. Their secondary is very weak. They have a bunch of young guys playing on the secondary, players that you never even heard of. So I think Seattle's played very, very well. And Russell Wilson, as much as everybody thinks that Russell Wilson's going to be on his way out at the end of this year, I don't see it to be. I don't. Russell Wilson is not going anywhere. He's under contract, and as long as he's under contract and he has a no-trade clause, he's going nowhere. So
He does have a trade clause.
No, he has a no-trade clause.
He has a no-trade clause.
Oh, but no, you're right, because we argued this before.
Carl says, A.J. Green had many games taken away because of injuries, so did Gale Sayers. I was backing up your point.
And by the way, Dak Prescott has been one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the league in the first 2 games.
Hold on.
He has
terrific.
Been. He has. I know you don't like him. But
It's not that I don't like him. Again, it's not that I don't like him.
That's fine. The fans are obnoxious, but anybody could say whatever they want about the organization and the team. Dak Prescott.
We've done this before, right? We've totally done this before.
Yeah.
The Cowboys steamrolled through people through 4 weeks. They were undefeated. They played the Dolphins, the Redskins, the Giants, a bunch of nobodies through 4 weeks.
They played the Chargers.
They do this every year. They're going to play halfway decent for a little while, and then they're going to choke from Thanksgiving all the way through
23
December.
for 27 is efficient for 237 yards. That's efficient. That's an efficient quarterback. He made every throw that he needed. He didn't throw any interceptions. This is a guy that's coming back from a bad ankle injury. A lot of people, and he threw 400. No, he didn't. He threw one.
One.
At the end of the game. That's right, he did. Right over here, it says he threw 1 interception. He played a very good game, and he was very efficient. And in the last 2 weeks, he's got 700 yards in the first 2 games.
Yeah,
that's pretty damn good. Okay.
They only won because of the refs.
Oh, stop.
No. Sorry. Sorry. I'm going to do this because I'm doing this.
Please do it and roast him.
No. I'm doing this because if they only lose because of the refs, well, then that's the only reason they win too. So I'm sick of that kid's bullshit too. He can take his goofy ass and kick rocks also.
Again, I thought Dallas and Dak Prescott.
And by the way, the refs did help Dallas, right?
Yeah,
because
they
backed
did.
they backed the Chargers up on a phantom roughing the passer call and took them out of range to get a touchdown, right? Where they only had because they were on the 3-yard line. right, and could have scored a touchdown. And that was the worst intentional grounding call I've ever seen. That dude didn't even have a hold of him. Justin Herbert was giving him a stiff arm, and they called it intentional grounding, right, and backed him all the way up, so all they could get was 3 points.